Hello, engineers. Thank you for opening this video. I hope you already have some sort of foundational knowledge into Python programming. So, in this whole lecture, no, you will have an understanding about how programmers actually work. So this would be partly about mindsets about programmers and the tools which can use to be able to create real world solutions. So in this lecture, we will be focusing on uh, terminologies and the tools. However, later afterward, I will be showing you examples of real projects that are either uh, were used in our demonstrations in the previous ESI batches, and also real projects that were used in both in research also. So the course outcome for this module is generally for you to be able to write your own code, write your own Python projects that would simulate real world solutions. So of course, we are not expecting you to create grand projects. So you will just find uh, problems that are related into your field and use Python to be able to solve a certain part of that bigger problem. So at the end of this lecture, you should be able to explain the intuition behind why are we using Python third-party libraries, and also demonstrate the use of Python package managers. Then uh, in the remaining part of the semester, so you should be able to demonstrate simple programming solutions, and these solutions can be implemented through CLI or through web-based Python environments such as the one you are using, Colab. So, so the contents of this lecture includes your Python references that will help you in your programming journey, uh, an introduction to Python package managers, and the most common third-party libraries that are used by software developers and also researchers as well. So before I continue, let me share it to you that programmers are not uh, people who remember everything. No, even after graduating, so there are a lot of things that we don't know yet. So what we do, if we have questions in mind, we go back into the references that are available or accessible to us. So there are a lot of resources which you can tap on. So we have the internet. You can Google. You can read blogs. You can read tutorials or watch tutorials. And uh, the main activity that will really help you grow as a programmer mainly is through trial and error. So you really need to do a lot of programming. You really need to do a lot of errors. No? So you really need to fail to be able to really learn how to do programming independently. So the core reference for the Python programming language is, of course, this website. So you can search docs.python.org, and basically this reference is the manual that describes how Python should be used. However, the contents can be too technical for new programmers, but again, this is the Bible of the Python programming language. Then also, so you can practice how to write Python codes in a beautiful manner. Diba? We have this style guide where beautiful is better than ugly, which really talks about how you properly write Python codes in which it is easily understandable by you, and also by the other people who will be using your code. So since programming is not a sole journey, no, especially for large projects, there will be a lot of people who will be gonna contributing into these projects, real world projects. So if you want to dig deeper into the Python standard library, so it is also found on the same website. So now that we have an idea, know that there is a proper way to write Python programs, there is a Python standard library, and so on. So let's deal with a more realistic approach into managing bigger projects. So you can think of a project repository as something as a desk. So if you can remember in our previous slides, now we have an analogy. So if you have an empty desk, so that would be your big project, but still empty. So you can think of your main program as a paper, no? So, di ba, when you start to write something, so it can be your draft. You start with a piece of paper, and you add more paper as you go into your project. And to get data or to get other information, you add more packages. So basically, you can think of packages as something as an additional content that you can add into your project. And we also have this library. So if you think about library, the physical library, the library building. So the library building consists of a lot of books, references, and other learning materials. So in programming, a library is basically an existing, no, an existing box which we can get, we can put into our table on our desk and use whatever contents of that box is present. Okay, so that would be the analogy of your project. So basically, to build this really big project, you need to add a lot of papers, a lot of packages, and a lot of libraries. So again, it depends on the context of the problem that you will be trying to solve. So what is a package manager? So of course, these libraries are found online, and you really need to install it before you can use it, and to be able to speed up that whole process of installation, the upgrade or the removal, and also the management of the dependencies of these third-party libraries. Because personally, no, it would be really hard for you to really organize everything, every program that you have downloaded online, and through a package managers. So all of those hard stuff will be delegated through a specific program that we will be learning after these few slides. So in Python, diba, in Python, we want everything to be simple, everything to be readable, and this package manager is another program that will make our life simpler. So basically, if you have an idea, so for example, I want to create a website. So in Python, you just search Google. So what is the Python library for building websites? Or if you want into data analysis, so what is the Python libraries? So it can be one or many. So Python libraries for data analysis, for machine learning, for data science, for visualization, and so on. So basically, the internet is really your friend when writing or creating programs. So that would be your starting point to be able to use whatever libraries that are available out there. And just an advice, so a piece of advice for you as a young professional, no, in the future who want to venture into programming, uh, there is no set of rules that will tell you that you should use this instead of that. So typically, as you gain more experience in programming, so what really help you in decision making, no, to use A instead of B, or B instead of A, is really the context of the project that you will be developing, because we have a lot of choices online, but mainly not. There are a lot of factors that might confuse you, but uh, since you are still starting, no, so maybe you can focus on the popularity. So the first keyword that will come out. So basically, you use that uh, manager, no, because the more people are using it, so it means that it is stable, it is good, no, and somehow it means that it is already it is also secure to use. Okay, so basically we have this website, no, where the third party libraries are being published. So you can think of this as a centralized repository, a centralized storage of all of the supported third party libraries for Python. So that is pyp.org. So as you can see in the this is an old slide, but as you can see, we already have about close to 500,000 projects already uploaded to PyP. So basically, these are third-party libraries that you can reuse in your personal projects. So the thing that I have been calling previously, no, as the support that will make our coding life easier is actually pip. So this is the default Python package manager, so which can help us to install, uninstall, and update the third-party libraries that we will be using in our projects. So how do you use pip? So as you can see, this is command prompt. So because there are multiple ways of doing programming. So developers, programmers prefer to use command prompt. So this is our typical interface where we do programming. However, in research, so typically people use the ones that you are using, such as Google Colab and Jupyter Notebook. So although they might have different interface, different look and feel, but basically the commands that you will be typing are the same. So to install a package, di ba? Earlier I said that you search in Google on what package to use. So basically, you can just replace this part with the keyword or the code to that specific package. So basically, you just type pip, so that's pip, and install and the keyword to that specific package. So that is pip install and the package code name. However, if the package is already existing and if you want to update it, diba, like iPhone, you want to upgrade to the latest operating system, since our smartphones are graphical, you just click the download and update button. However, no, in programming, basically we do commands. So we type our commands to tell the interpreter what to do. So for this one, you just type pip install, and that is dash capital U, a shorthand for update. So that's pip install dash capital U and the package code name. So that will automatically update the package that is already found on your computer. However, as a reminder, so when doing programming, make sure that you are connected to the internet to be able to communicate with the server. No? So because to download something, so you need the internet to download it from wherever it is found. So basically, when we do pip install, that is being downloaded from pyp.org. And there are instances where we want to install something, diba? Like in on our smartphones, we install games, we install apps, and sometimes if we are already bored with it, we uninstall it. So same with Python. So to be able to uninstall something, just run the command pip uninstall and the code name of the package. And there are instances where we need to tell Python that I'm already done with the libraries that I have installed, and I want you to list all of the libraries that I have used. So the command would be pip freeze and the greater than symbol, and you type requirements.txt. So it is a textual file that contains the list of the third-party libraries and also the associated versions that were downloaded into your computers. So, uh, so basically, no, the greater than symbol is like an arrow that tells that the results of this pip freeze will be transferred or will be copied into this new text file, which is requirements.txt. Okay, so there are also instances, diba? Since we will be collaborating on a very big project, multiple people are using or working on the same project. So meaning you need to create a copy of the existing code from your classmates, your colleagues, your collaborators, and so you will not have the burden of repetitively downloading maybe uh, 10 libraries, 50 libraries, and so on. So you just run the command pip install -r requirements.txt. So of course, this is given that the previous programmer performed this pip phrase. So pip install -r requirements.txt is dependent after the previous programmer has run this specific command. No? So basically, these are magic words, no, that tells Python to really simplify our life. No? Okay. So now we have talked about third-party libraries, Python package managers. So we go over third-party libraries. And why are they called third-party? So in our previous slides, in our previous lecture, we've talked about Python standard library. So the Python standard library is the library that is packaged into Python and is available once you install Python into your computer. So again, the standard library is the library that comes together when you install Python. So it's a very lean package. To be able to use other libraries out there, no? So basically those libraries that are not part of Python are called third-party libraries. So meaning there are people who created those libraries, no? A third-party people, communities, and maybe companies, no? So there are companies that are creating their own libraries for you to use. So basically, this is a set of readily downloadable packages. So meaning it is found in pyp.org. You can download it, and it can be used to extend the capabilities of Python itself. But basically, Python is just a programming language. If you want to create websites, so there is a third-party library for that. If you want to analyze data, there is a third-party library for that, and so on. So let's explore different third-party libraries that are very useful in creating programs or managing programs. So first is virtual environments. So we have this virtual env package. So basically what it does is it creates an isolated project and installs packages within the project only. So what does that means? So you can think of this as your personal bubble. Diba? Introverts are very familiar with this. Yeah, I have this circle. Inside this, I am very comfortable and I don't want any other people to come inside with my this safe circle. Same with programs. We don't want other things not to tamper with our own programs. And as programmers, no, typically we create multiple programs. And to be able to protect one program no, from another program, we need to separate their environments. Diba? Earlier, we talked about we can install third-party libraries. And typically, if we keep installing, and so on, no, we jump from one project to another. The changes that we might introduce into one project can negatively impact one project. So, because these are just sets of codes, no, that are stored in the Python folder. To be able to protect our projects, no, we want to isolate them. So basically, we use the virtual end package. So anyway, now I will be providing a separate video on how to use this virtual end package. However, so let's have this simple uh, uh, command to be able to install virtual end. So this is not particularly helpful if you are working into Google Colab. However, once you start building projects outside the university, no, once you graduate, so basically you might be creating your project using the CLI. So to be able to install this, so just run the command pip install virtual env. So again, so later I will be providing a separate video on how to use virtual environment for your projects. So, uh, so basically, no. So just to give you a primer on how to use this one, no. So if you have an existing project, you just go inside the project and type this command virtual env. So this will tell Python, no, that this specific project will prepare this special folder, no, na that will tell Python that everything that you will be doing will be stored into that folder and not on the main Python folder. So since we have this specific Python folder deeply nested inside our computer, no, in our computer system, and we want all of our changes to be just contained inside that specific project, so that again, no, the changes that we do from one project to another will be isolated on that specific project only. Then again, depends on your computer, no? Because there are students who will be using Windows, there will be students who will be using Mac OS and other Linux distribution. Again, so uh, it is do not focus on the uh, uh, this specific code, no, because it might be differ on the different operating system that we'll be using. So basically, the series of slides was created for Windows, but of course, you have the internet to search the equivalent for your Mac OS or for Linux setup. So basically, that is /env/script/activate. So this command will activate your isolated virtual environment and will allow Python, no, to really isolate all of the things that you have been doing in the project. Then this one is very straightforward. If you want to deactivate your virtual environment, so just run the command deactivate, and that will end your or that will stop your virtual environment. So as you can see now, after running the activate command, so you can see here that there will be a special, no, a special code here. So basically, this will tell us that this specific virtual environment has been activated. And after deactivating it, as you can see, no, so kanisha, after deactivating it, so the env virtual environment is already gone or has been stopped already. Okay, so so once we start programming, no, although we know that we want to write beautiful programs, so there will be instances that we have this really limited time, we have deadlines, we have other priorities as well. So basically, we just want to keep coding, keeping on translating our logic, no, into actual programs, and basically we'll let go of the the proper coding styling guide, no? So we also have this code formatter, no, which we can run, no, which we can execute. So this automates, no, it automates how our code will be styled. So it will not fix, no, again, this is not a code fixer. It is a code formatter. So basically, in simple terms, it beautifies our code. No, it adjusts uh, the proper spacing, the the formatting of the brackets, the parentheses, the proper the other styling guides. So again, it does not fix your code; it only beautifies your code. So to install Black, so you just run this command pip install Black, or if you want to update it, pip install dash capital U Black. Then basically you can beautify multiple Python files. So you just run this one Black, then the name of the folder containing your Python programs. Or you can just beautify one Python program. So you just tell the interpreter Black space the name of the Python file. No? So afterwards, no, it will display that your code or the set of codes has been successfully beautified, no, or formatted. So let me add this one also. So there are instances again. So again, we're focusing on CLI first, no. However, later I will introduce you to Google Colab. Okay. So as you can see, the interpreter. So as seen on this example, it's very plain. It's black and white. It's very generic. But you can also style your terminal. So we call this a terminal, a shell interpreter. No, basically it is black and white, but using the rich package, so you can introduce colors, fonts, and other designs that can be integrated into your program. So, for example, for this one, no, so just run the command pip install rich, and again, no, I provided the screenshot and the link to the documentation of each third-party library that I have introduced to you, and you can explore other uh, other possibilities which you can implement into your own program. So basically, no, in reality, no, when you are still writing codes, no, basically you typically don't code with Google Colab, no, in the perspective of programmers or researchers. No, because we want to do versioning. So you can actually run your own local. So when we say local, it is a Google Colab like, or we call that as a notebook. You can run your own notebook in an offline manner. But again, you need the internet to download to download these third-party libraries. But as soon as soon as you have already downloaded these third-party libraries, so you can already start working offline. Now, especially if you have a slow internet or if you don't have internet at all, so you can still work with Python given that you have pre-installed everything beforehand. So we have this Jupyter package or the notebook na package. This is under still related to Jupyter. So when we say interactive programming interface, so this is the same with Google Colab. So basically, Google Colab is still a notebook but hosted through Google. So basically, all of your data is saved through Google. But Jupyter Notebook is stored on your computer. So Jupyter is widely used by scientists and researchers. So again, it is an interactive programming interface based on your experience. You can write your code in the cells, run the code as you go. So that's why it's called interactive programming. So to install Jupyter or to install Notebook, just run the command pip install notebook. No? And to be able to run it, so just run the command Jupyter Notebook, and it will open a website where you can start coding like Google Colab. So again, I will be sharing a separate video on how to explore or how to use these third-party libraries. So there are also instances, no, where we want to collect data from the internet. So basically, that is what OpenAI is doing, NVIDIA, not to be able to create these chat AI systems, no, these LLMs. So to be able to build these ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, and so on. So basically, they are scraping the internet. They're using this data to build this AI model. So in hindsight, no, they are just using Python, and you can also leverage the technologies that these big companies are using. So you have those in hand, no? So we have this request package. So don't mind the buzzwords, no? Basically, it's just a program that can access the internet, get data from the internet, and have that copy inside your computer. No? So again, so from the word request, you can just request data from the internet. No, as long as you have access or specific things. No, how on I will not teach you that. No, but basically, you only get data that you are allowed to use. So kana na lang. So that would be my advice for you. And you can use the request package. And to be able to use this package, so you just run this command pip install requests. And after the series of downloading, so again, it depends on your internet connection. So there are instances that this installation might take time. No, that is the same when you install apps on your phone. So it depends on your internet. So if your internet is slow, so it will take time to download these third-party libraries. So there's gonna be a lot of things that will be printed on your screen, no? But just wait, no? And wait until the installation completes. So by this time, so this specific third-party libraries, no, starting from web scraping requests, you can integrate this in your Google Colab, no? This specific command is used for terminal or command prompt. However, to install that into your Google Colab, so you just prepend it with the percent symbol, no? So it will tell Google Colab or Notebook that this is a command, no? It's not part of the Python program, but it is a command, a terminal command, no? To tell Python to install these specific third-party libraries. Then we have this very, very important third-party library, the NumPy package. So basically what it does, no, it is uh, doing complex computations, no, uh, instead of us doing this very basic uh, uh, 1 times 2 times 3 divided by 4, it uses a uh, different data type. Just to say simply, no, basically we have this scalar, we have this tensors. So these higher order data types basically can can do very complex computation in a very efficient manner. No, this is very important in data analysis, in machine learning, in AI applications. So basically, no, behind this modern technology that we use, no, the applications in our phones, no, that we can do already, no, um, we must understand that these things are being run by computers, and this library, no, is a very fast library that can do mathematical computation way more faster than traditional mathematics. So to install NumPy, so you just run the command pip install NumPy. And again, it depends on your internet on how fast it can install NumPy. So again, if you are using Google Colab or Notebook, you just prepend pip with the percent symbol. So no spacing, no, just percent pip install the name of the package. Then we also have, for different scientific analysis, you can explore scikit-learn. We have scikit-image and other variations of this one. But basically, this specific third-party library is used for predictive data analysis and basic na machine learning. No, it can be used for pre-processing data, no, classifying. So it can, for example, for let's say for the BSCE, so you can classify whether this specific supply is substandard or not, or you can specify whether this specific data is tampered or not. No, for BSME, maybe you can look into signals, no, and check if this specific signal is is within the acceptable range or not, and on many other applications as well. No, so basically this is a higher end of the statistics side of mathematics, no, an application of statistics through forecasting, regression, clustering, and other higher level scientific analysis. So again, to install that, so you just run the command pip install scikit-learn. Again, I added the website, no, so that you can explore sample code, snippets, and other things that you can help in your independent learning. So same with the previous examples, to install it in Google Colab, so you just type and run the command percent symbol pip install scikit-learn. Then the one that you might have used already, that is matplotlib library. So this library is for really creating visualization of your data. So maybe you might say, this is just for visualization, no, for simple visualization. But you can actually save or export the charts that were generated, no, and you can actually paste those in your research documents. No, you can create Python programs to analyze and visualize your data, then paste it on your research or your thesis or your assignments and other things that require visualization. So with Python, you have a more freedom, no, to adjust the design or the style of how you want to present your data than just by using default features of Microsoft Office, no, library, Excel, PowerPoint, and so on. Now to install that, that's pip install matplotlib. Again, it's not math, it's matplotlib. So again, for notebooks, so run the command %pip install matplotlib. Then we've gone into the more complex side of Python, no? So we have these machine learning libraries. And then I think this is one of the libraries that you really want to explore in the future. No, this is very important right now. So it's not only a buzzword already. So you can actually use this if you want to pursue scientific side of civil engineering, scientific side of mechanical engineering, or whatever engineering field you are on. So again, this is not only focused on engineering and computer science, it is now widely used by other industries as well. So we have economics, computational biology, and whatever fields that we have right now. So you can use Python and these third-party libraries. So when we talk about tensor, no? So a tensor is just an object. Diba? We have numbers nga. 1, 22, and so on. Then we also have vectors. So basically, these vectors are a series of numbers, no, that can be graphed in a Cartesian coordinate plane. No? So we have x, y, and we can have x, y, z, and we can have more complex vectors that can have multiple that can be plotted into multiple directions as well. And we have these matrices, or simply it's a multi-dimensional array of numbers. So you are familiar with lists. So it is basically a list inside a list. No, it can have more lists inside a list, can be nested. So basically, computers are now powerful to be able to operate on those complex mathematical objects. So TensorFlow again is for machine learning. So it is backed, no, by Google and very helpful in developing AI solutions. So this TensorFlow is it's more popular in the industry. Although it is still used in academia and research, it is more popular in the industry. So to install TensorFlow, there are more complexities in installing TensorFlow because it depends on your computer. If you have CPU, GPU, no, there are a lot of combination to really make most of your resources. But basically, to install that is pip install TensorFlow. And for notebooks, you just run the command %pip install TensorFlow. Then we have an alternative. So we have this PyTorch library. So basically, this is just the same with TensorFlow. However, this is backed by Facebook or Meta AI. So basically, just different companies managing these third-party libraries. No. However, PyTorch is more popular in research. So again, PyTorch is more popular in research. TensorFlow is popular in the industry. But I am not saying that researchers are not using TensorFlow or the industry is not using PyTorch. So there are more people using PyTorch in research. Okay. So again, this is just the same operating on these complex mathematical objects, no, to be able to somehow simulate how a human brain works. So again, because we are focusing on this machine learning and deep learning technologies. To install that is pip install PyTorch, or in notebook, %pip install PyTorch. So in summary, if you have an idea and if you want to build a project on that, so it involves exploring different tools. So, diba, if you're a BSCE student, if you're gonna build a house, a structure, a dam, a bridge, a building, you need to use a lot of tools, and it depends on the size of the project, on what tools or the number of tools and supplies which you will be needing. So that is the same analogy with programming. Now, the bigger your program, the more tools that you will be using, the more complex tools that you might be using. So the Python standard library is a small toolbox, no, that will help you write code faster. So remember, we have this math nga standard library, statistics, and so on. But we also have these bigger third-party libraries which are aimed to solve specific areas, no, in programming. So as mentioned earlier, so you can format code, you can analyze complex data, you can perform deep learning, you can do web development. So basically, Python is already powerful, but what is more powerful is our creativity, no? And our perspectives in life, no? Where we can look into our communities, no? We can look in the environment that surround us and see, I will pick this problem, this is feasible, this is important, this is useful, and I will use Python to solve it, no? the 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 ones that really make programming shine is actually you, because Python is just a tool, it's just a toolbox. It is waiting for your creativity and your motivation to do these real world projects. So I'm giving you this evaluation form. So I know that we are undergoing changes, no, especially with this online setting, the tremors, the earthquake, and I want you to objectively evaluate how we can improve the slides, no, the contents, and what other things that you want to learn in this specific topic. So thank you so much for listening. So I hope you make most of these slides, you make most of what I am saying to you. So again, the power to create these codes that will make you proud is really you. But of course, you can always ask from help from me and your fellow instructors as well. So again, thank you so much and goodbye.